Welcome back. Exactly 8 a.m. Good morning from wherever you're tuning in from. You're watching Morning Express. It being a Tuesday, we want to take a look at your money. And as we do that, this time round, we focus on the fresh produce industry in the country. Just like other industries, the sector has taken a hit. And knowing very well the goal of food security in the country, how exactly has this been hampered? And we'll try and evaluate some of the government initiatives that have tended to support this particular sector, an all-important sector, I must say, when it comes to attaining that food security goal in the country. So right now I'm joined by Loyd, who's the CEO of Avoveg Limited. Thank you so much for your time and good morning, sir. I'm equally joined by Okisegere Ojipat, a food security expert and the CEO of Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya. I'd like to start off the bat with you, Ojipat, perhaps looking back at the year that has been with the disruptions of COVID in the country. I'm pretty sure the fresh produce industry equally took a hit. So perhaps looking back, what challenges were there and how exactly has this industry sort of risen above the challenges and survived these shocks of the pandemic?
Thanks, Jesse, and good morning. It's true that we've gone through battering, but the comfort is that we are in an industry where we provide food, and that for that reason, therefore, whereas we've had challenge in terms of logistics, we've had challenges in terms of the movement and the pricing. We have still remained resilient because we have supplied the world with food amidst the pandemic, with a lot of challenges on logistics, basically constrained in terms of the space available by the carriers from one corner to another. In many instances, we've had flights having cargo out of Nairobi, but having less inbound cargo, and that has increased then the cost of freight because we need to, the aircraft hub must be in business. But luckily, we, being in Nairobi and being a hub of logistics and cargo, we've been able to get through, notwithstanding the other challenges that we've had in the recent past. For us as an industry on the cost of production and critically the issues of climate change and unpredictability, particularly in our market, and predominantly the greatest market that we have is in the EU, and we've had a bit of predictability on the red alerts, and they have been closing and opening and closing their borders in a much more erratic way that we're not in control. For that reason, it has disrupted a bit of our supply chain. But we thank God the Kenyan growers and the exporters have remained very resilient. Amidst all this, we have continued to push and try to see how we diversify our markets, getting out of the traditional EU. We've also then been able to get into the Middle East and try to explore even within the African region, particularly South Africa. And now with opportunities opening up in India, we hope that we will be able to prevail. But most importantly is that we have a membership that is very strong at the consortium. Fresh Produce Consortiums bring together the exporters, the supply chain actors. With more than 300 companies that we work together, we have been able to communicate in a much more efficient and effective way in updating them on what is happening and accepting and basically encouraging them to hold on because we have a brighter days ahead. And because of the spirit of our Kenyan members, and particularly the members of the Fresh Produce Consortium, including the member in the studio with you, we have seen them resilient and they have supported us, taken a cuts, less profits, sometimes just a break even, but have been able to remain sustainably in production and also maintaining the jobs that we employ quite a bit.
All right.
And that has kept our industry going. And we always have had our hope alive, and we always look forward to a very productive years ahead. And therefore, it's clear that we are not going to go down. We will prevail. We will do all we can, and we will ensure that we continue engaging stakeholders, particularly those in the freight, and see how we can bring this cost of production slightly low, but in the production and also the cost of freight, because that's a single most largest portion of our budget when it comes to the export market.
Okay, and we'll definitely get to delve deeper into some of the logistical challenges and whether air transport is back to normal as per the standards. Anyway, as you mentioned, we have an industry player right here in studio. Nathan Loyd, thanks for your time. And perhaps as you break down what role avoveg industry plays in the supply chain, kindly break down for us how exactly your side took some of the challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic, and perhaps you can expand it in terms of the government support that was handed over. We had talks of stimulus packages. Were this in the offing?
Good morning again. Yes, my name is Nathan Loyd, CEO of avoveg. It's been, business in itself is a challenge, even before COVID. Of course, looking at the different aspects that entrepreneurs face. So when we come into COVID, starting from, of course, last year in 2020, it really shook us to our knees in terms of challenges when different countries, we mainly export to Europe, closed their borders. We had specific situations where you have the containers refused to be allowed to dock. The avocado has a shelf life of about 45 days. So when the countries go into lockdown, basically meaning that all the containers we had on high seas literally went to waste and had to be destroyed. So that was in a shock to the very core of as an entrepreneur and trying to lead avoveg and the industry that we're in. Your other question related to has the government offered us support? I think the support has been just very good with words. Words with no support. We hear about stimulus packages, we hear about recovery packages. Yet when you look at our European importers, their governments have actually supported them, not only with words but with action. So for us, sadly to say, I don't want to mix my words, we have had zero support.
Okay, and this points a bigger question, Ojipat, over to you, in terms of the government goodwill, in terms of delivering these promises. So when it comes to stimulus packages, and we hear no form of support was rendered to these exporters. As a consortium, how exactly do you take this, and what are you doing to ensure that some of your members are covered in terms of the risks when it comes to some of these challenges, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Thanks, Jesse, and thanks, Nathan, for putting it right. We did, as an industry, write to the President of the Republic of Kenya during the pandemic, when it was just hit sometime last year. And graciously, the President of the Republic of Kenya did announce a stimulus package of 1.5 billion to the Kenyan exporters in the fresh produce industry to support us, particularly in easing pressure on the logistics cost and freight cost. Unfortunately, that promise has never come through to date. We have since written to the government 3 times. We've had a meeting with Treasury, and it has always remained promises. And it's sad to tell that the leadership in this country, particularly in Treasury, do not seem to consider the challenges that the exporters go through. What the horticulture industry has survived on is the resilience within themselves, and just seeing how we can work together as an industry. But from government, we've gotten zero support as far as stimulus package is concerned, and we've therefore been scratching our backs on our own just to see what to do. Sadly, instead of the government of the day supporting us, we have had a lot of support go to the health facility. It has gone to different other sectors. We have also seen even tea, coffee, and other value chain products being supported. But when it comes to horticulture, unfortunately, it is sad to say, and I'll say it straight, we've seen zero of that money come to us. And this was the situation when it was announced after we had requested support, and the President granted it. We were told this money will be channeled through our national carrier. We sat down with our national carrier. We agreed on how we were going to account for this and how we were going to channel certain amount to every kilo that's exported that was going to relieve our exporters the pressure until we spend the 1.5 billion. KQ then was asked to raise an invoice, and this money was going to be released in 3 tranches. As we talk, we have not received a single tranche. We have complained, we have written reminders. to a level it has reached a point where I met the CS for trade, CS for trade, I met the CS for Treasury, National Treasury, I met all the technocrats there. They understand, they pretend to understand our issue, but they have refused to act on it. So it's very sad that this is what is going on at the moment. We continue to pursue as a whole industry. We have said we'll give it a last chance of checking. If not, we'll still have to call a press and tell the world, and particularly Kenyans, that listen, our government that promised to support us has refused, and therefore we are on our own, and find out how to go. And you'll see, Jesse, when the president announces a stimulus package of 1.5 billion, we believe that Treasury just needs to reallocate those resources and avail them. And we need that money. We still need that money. We need to recover. We are the most expensive country today in terms of the destination when it comes to the export, because our product is more expensive even before it leaves Nairobi. The other countries in the world, and particularly the countries in the region, have gotten a stimulus package. They've gotten support from their government such that they are able to place their product in the shelves in a much more cheaper than we can. The only thing that keeps us in the market is because Kenya is able to produce 12 months of the year, 365 days of the year, and because of being in the tropics, our produce still remains sweet and our quality remains superior, and I think that's the only thing that keeps us going. Otherwise, it's getting very expensive, and I think the last thing that keeps our people here is because Kenya is fairly stable in terms of business security.
Correct.
So because of that security and the stability that people know, if they invest in Kenya, they'll have it, we will be okay. Then perhaps when I respond again, I'll also talk about one of the most painful scenario is we have also handed over this country to some lobbyists who are talking negative about the country, left, right, and center, and we're wondering why government cannot crack a whip on people who basically have come in here from outside the country, NGOs, try to demonize this industry. And yet, yes, Jesse, I can tell you today, the only single most industry that employs the majority of Kenyans is the horticulture industry. We employ directly more than 1 million staff. We have farmers, we have aggregators, we have markets. If today horticulture hang the boots, we will be nowhere. Okay. Whereas we get returns in terms of national treasury, and by the end of the year, 150 billion in return on average per year, we are getting zero input into horticulture industry. And it's very saddening that proudly the government of the Republic of Kenya will announce how horticulture is doing well, and they're doing nothing. Apart from the license that they're giving us, which is a piece of paper, I keep asking, so what next? Okay. We're basically moving as orphans, and I hope that somebody listens and somebody will be able to take an action and get to know, listen, how do you give coffee? How do you give miraa? How do you give sugar? How do you give tea? That support, but you deny the single largest industry that supports the horticulture and the majority and thousands of Kenyans, and that counts. We are the first and the highest today industry that earns more money than any other industry. Right. And yet we get zero injection from the government of the day.
Okay, and I think this is the right forum. I'm sure the message will definitely get across. And before we get to the budgetary allocation in terms of the agricultural sector, or perhaps the horticultural industry specifically, Nathan Loyd, over to you. And is it all gloom right now? Because we've painted a picture that these exporters are all by themselves without the government support. Is it all gloom? Has the industry recovered? And while we're talking about this, the logistical issues in terms of air transport, are you being enabled to actually reach the market out there?
I think, Ojepa, thank you very much. You covered it quite well. It's the reality of it that support does not come. We have dug deeper into our pockets. We have dug into our reserves. Then, like I was saying before, it's more of a component of the stimulus package seems to be set inside maybe to stimulate one or two pockets maybe down the road, I don't know. But it's frustrating with there's so much focus on August 2022, but we're not even focusing on today in terms of it's the entrepreneurs who have to sleep at night thinking, as OJ has covered them, Do we keep these staff members? How do we keep them? How do we remain afloat? So the blood, sweat, and tears that we go through, it's something where I can tell you, frankly speaking, the government is looking the other way. We're not getting support.
And that's unfortunate. So in terms of logistics and air transport, are you being enabled to reach the market?
We're being enabled to reach the market, but at a very expensive cost compared to our neighbors.
So what needs to be done to bring down this cost? Is it a roundtable discussion with the policy makers, or is it just simply down to implementation of what's already there?
Definitely a roundtable discussion, but a roundtable discussion with the right people, with the listening ear, not just a politician maybe who has been actually in business, not just playing politics as far as that goes. So with the right ear and having these funds, if this 1.5 billion stimulus package ever come through, to be monitored by an institution like where OJ is fresh produce, that kind of institution to monitor the funds cost, excuse me, they'll be the best place to be able to determine where those funds should be earmarked, not a politician.
Okay, that's well noted. But on a lighter note, Nathan Loyd, what's happening with the avocado season? We've had so much of something to do with the closure of the avocado season, but what exactly is going on? Is there a glut currently?
No, the word that is used in the media is they throw out a word called the ban. It's not a ban, it's a form of a protection because we are out of the avocado season. Our avocado season mainly runs from February to September. And when they put the ban in place, it's really to protect scrupulous or third-party exporters trying to export immature fruits. When you export an avocado that's immature, it will never ripen. And at the end of the day, it ruins the image of Kenya. So it's a form of protection, which we strongly encourage as exporters.
Okay, and that's interesting. Perhaps we could delve deeper into the nitty-gritty details of exporters. In case someone's watching and they're interested in this particular business, how exactly does it work? I've had talk of the quality of fruits and vegetables exported is actually higher than the ones in the market. So as a farmer, perhaps as a middleman or as an exporter, how do you go about this? Because quality and quantity is quite important. Well, what say you about the key issues when it comes to being an exporter?
I think for myself, quality, of course, becomes very, very key as far as that goes, monitoring and meeting our international standards in terms of certifications. We spend a lot of time and diligence to make sure that we raise the bar and keep in tune with what our international buyers expect of us.
Okay, and that's well noted. And that means organic as well. Okay, and perhaps we can talk with Ojipat on that. There's been so much negative publicity when it comes to the pesticides used in the country. Perhaps your take on this particular debate and how, as the consortium, you're trying to ensure that the exports are up to par in terms of the quality. Well, what's your issue on this?
Thanks, Jesse. First, let me make a comment on the avocado. The term we're using here is a restriction of the export of avocados by sea, and now we're still able to export, but it must be by air, because we export only small quantities that are off-season, or some of the growers who are farming under irrigated agriculture. But there's a mechanism and a system that allows us to be able to verify before they export. So nobody has banned avocado exports. It must be clear. Avocado has not been banned. We're basically restricting the window to be able to be sure that we're only sending good quality, as Nathan has said, to the market, because we don't want to ruin the market, the Kenyan name out there that people have been speaking against if we send premature avocados. And secondly, that everyone and anybody can become an exporter. All you need to do is have a company. You come to us. We will take you through the process and what you need to do in which market and what is required. So it's a market that anybody can access. However, it comes with challenges, and it comes with due diligence, and it comes with discipline, because we must remain resilient and disciplined in terms of quality and consistent supply. Then let me delve on the subject of negative publicity. And gladly, Jesse, I'm happy that we have an opportunity to speak about this. Kenya is the single most country in the world that produces, in 12 months of the year, 365 days of the year. I am fully aware that not anybody will be happy with us as a competition. But it's sadly that Kenyans can demonize their own system. We have had a lot of negative publicity about misuse or use of banned pesticides in this country, which is unfortunate. There is a system of admission and withdrawal of plant protection products that are sanctioned by the Republic of Kenya through an agency called Pest Control Products Board. The same way they admit a product is the same way they have a process of withdrawal of any molecules in case there's any challenge. But waking up in the morning and say pesticides are being used and associating pesticide to cancer is a complete myth, is misplaced, and is unfortunate.
Okay.
The companies that produce pharmaceutical products are the same companies that produce plant protection products. And I can tell you, Jesse, with authority, that it takes more than 10 years to get a molecule in the market in terms of research. What the government of the Republic of Kenya and the Kenyans at large need to do is to invest on the knowledge on usability and training farmers to be able to read the label and consult with extension services. Unfortunately, Jesse, we are in a country where the extension services in the public sector collapsed. And therefore, exporters like Nathan have to employ private extension service providers to support them in that level.
Okay.
So when the counties do not have extension services, the national government do not have extension services, and you blame pesticide, it's wrong. How comes we are not able to blame pharmaceuticals when we have a challenge? Because the same way we dispense pharmaceuticals is the way we need to dispense and the plant protection products. So this is my take, that as we talk now, we have taken a petition to Parliament, to withdraw the motion that was put there by Honorable Sholay to ban 262 molecules of plant protection products. Because Nathan will tell you, the organic farming in Kenya is still very low and it cannot sustain food security. So whereas we're talking about safety, safety is not about pesticide. Pesticide is a component of agricultural production. And I want to urge the country called Kenya, first, to love Kenya. Two, to appreciate that there are institutions in Kenya, including ourselves, who are busy training our people on the safety, on the right and responsible use of plant protection products, because we are fully aware the food we take out there is the food we eat locally is supposed to be safe. Nobody wants to take poison, and nobody deliberately is going to do this. And as I come to a closure on this, yes, I want to say this. Do you want to tell me today that the Republic of Kenya can allow poison to be imported in this country to kill her own citizens? Are you telling me that this country is this government is so irresponsible that they will allow plant protection products that kill their own citizens to be imported in a country? That is wrong. We need to be sober in our approach, and we must stop the NGOs and individuals who negatively and openly demonize our country, and yet they eat food from this country. So we need to look at this sober conversation well. We need to give science its due space, and we must be able to allow experts within the agro industry to speak about this subject matter, but not lobbyists and people who walk in the streets who assume they know what they don't know. I will not claim to be a journalist today. I will not claim to be a doctor today. I will not claim to, but I strongly proclaim what I know with authority as an authority as an agriculturist, and I speak with authority as an agronomist because this is my forte. For more than 20 years, I have been doing this, and I know what it means. And ask Nathan, we've worked with them even before I go to this position. As an association, we have put together technical expertise to allow our people to responsibly use plant protection products. So, lastly, this is my take, that we must then first allow the institutions of the government of the Republic of Kenya. And if anybody has an issue, let them go to the same parliament and say this institution does not have this. Lastly, is you cannot work with this, Jesse, without budgetary allocation to the same institution and to the sector that you call a backbone.
Well noted, Ojipat. So, Nathan Loyd, you're an industry player, and perhaps you can delve deeper into the prospects of organic farming vis-a-vis the right use of plant protection products. Where do you draw the line?
I think Ojipat has covered it quite well as far as that goes. So, yeah. Like he said, there's no way our government will import pesticides or things that will harm its own people. So, following procedure and following guidelines is basically what we do as exporters. We know this is a very sensitive sector, so that's what we do and that's what we will continue to do.
Okay, well noted. So let's talk about markets, Nathan. And I'm interested, how exactly do you secure international markets? And talk of market diversification. We've talked about the European Union and the instability that sort of affected the exports from Kenya to the European Union countries. How do we diversify the market to ensure that there's widespread in terms of the products leaving Kenya to other countries?
For us, if I talk, of course, specifically about AvoVeg, would be that some of our current clients we export avocados to. We also export sugar snaps, we export French beans, we export snow peas. So through exporting quality avocados, we've been able to export quality French beans and other components. And right now we've just started exporting mangoes. We're exporting that to the Middle East as a form of diversification. That's pretty much how we've done. So by keeping on top of our game, keep understanding what the customer wants, and also it's always very, very important that you visit the customer. Some of the European customers are also briefcase importers where they don't have their own pack houses or own stations. It's very important as a Kenyan entrepreneur to be able to also visit where are you exporting your produce to. That I've seen, and a lot of people or entrepreneurs don't do that. I spend a lot of time, and most of the time I spend about 50% of my time out of the country, not marketing only AvoVeg, but marketing Kenya and marketing this component OJ was talking about, which is a lot of negative publicity that's getting out there. So to answer your question, Jesse, it's basically a face-to-face meeting up with the customers and then word of mouth from there in terms of building our name and brand.
Okay, well noted. And in terms of building your name and brand as well, do you directly work with the farmers on the ground or you outsource through middlemen? Because we've had talk of middlemen who actually sort of rob in one or the other the farmers out of the profits of their produce. But what say you about this?
We diligently and steadily are weeding out the middlemen. It has been a challenge. It's because it's sad to see how much the middlemen make and how much the farmer makes from that. So, but we also put a lot of emphasis by reaching out to the farmers and bringing the farmers to our pack house. We organize 2 or 3 times a year. The farmers come and see where our pack house is, because the middlemen make Nairobi seem to the farmers like we're in another country. So by bringing them to see where their produce goes, how it's processed, how it's packaged, it gives them a better understanding and appreciation. That's how we're steadily weeding out the middlemen.
Okay, and that's quite important. So Ojipat, as we finalize, budgetary allocation, as you hinted earlier, is quite important because we need to sort of facilitate this industry to achieve the heights it truly deserves. So taking a look at the amount set aside, not just for the agricultural industry, I know you take a wide scope, the horticulture industry, as well as this fresh products that are supposed to be exported. But what say you about the money set aside?
Thanks. First, let me appreciate what Nathan has said and let you know that we spend a lot of time out there to market Kenya and to speak to the market about Kenya. And we have not invested as a country in marketing this country. And it's sadly that we have government officials traveling from one part of the country to another, but they say nothing about this country. And if they say anything, then they say it in boardrooms, and yet we need to speak it loudly and just ensure that we speak. So as an association where Nathan is actually our member, he will tell you how much time I spend out there and basically speak on behalf of the industry and see how we can champion this country, industry and grow it up. But now coming on the budgetary allocation, it's a shame that the government of the Republic of Kenya has given less than 3% of its total budget, of our total budget, to agriculture, including what goes into the counties. And then when you look at horticulture, you realize it's completely zero consideration, because for some reason, the people who work in the horticulture industry have managed to work on self-regulation and be able to build their name. And for that reason, they are considered. For example, those who are doing, some of our members who do flowers, Nathan and the team, government considers them as rich people, not knowing that they're basically Kenyans who have toiled left day and night to try and put bread on the table, work with financial institutions, try and get on this. It's sad that even the Republic of Kenya institutions like AFC that are supposed to be funding the agriculture sector look at horticulture as a risk and therefore do not put in an investment. So we have not gotten any budgetary allocation from the Republic of Kenya directly. What we have only seen around is a lot of talk and a talk show of people who make discussions and who make it look lucrative. And it's saddening to say that some of the horticulture industry development in Kenya is done by the development partners who put in slightly more money directly than the government of the day. Unfortunately, the government of the day has also gone in, instead of putting regulations in place to facilitate funding towards this direction, they have put in regulations that bar this industry from growing. So we haven't gotten any budgetary support directly from the government. For example, there was a time, and I still insist that we have said, can government of the day give Kenyan exporters at least $1 billion or 5 billion shillings as a rotational fund that will allow us to be able to support particularly the small guys to come through, but that has not come through. It has gone into a death. But every day, on every other day, when I watch news, I hear there's this grant, there's this bank, there's this, and you keep sometimes ask yourself, is it a show or is it a reality? And as Kenyans say, vitu kwa ground ni different. What we hear up here is a mere talk, but what goes down is completely zero. So we toil to support our members, and we endeavor to do the same, because Nathan and other colleagues and the exporters, and particularly the young men and women who are coming into this industry, the freshers, are struggling to make ends meet. So we have supported them, and basically Nathan will tell you sometimes they get advances from the market than getting advances from the Republic of Kenya, contrary to what happens to our neighbors. Let me take an example of Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda. They are growing their industry because they are deliberately supporting their SMEs to grow. In Kenya, the reverse is true. The SMEs are being constrained and being punished for doing business. The taxes are just way beyond. Cost of production has gone high. Policies are not lucrative enough. And even if when you propose the policy change, the challenge we have is that this policy change do not speak about how to make financial accessibility easy for the smallholders. They make it financial accessibility easy for the big people who already can afford it anyway, and they can go to commercial banks. So this is my take, that government needs to be deliberate.
All right.
The government of the Republic of Kenya has committed 10% in the previous treaties in different parts of the world. But the reality on the ground is that Kenya has never got anything beyond 2.7% allocated to general agriculture. Unfortunately, Jesse, the security of this country is reliant on when every Kenyan will be able to afford food.
Okay.
If every Kenyan can afford food, the issues of insecurity will be a thing of the past, and we can concentrate. Can I tie it up by saying, sadly, it's unfortunate that Kenyans in this country are dying, or they are constrained because of hunger, because they have no food. But I can also tell you that some areas of this country have too much food. So I also want to take this opportunity to urge government of the Republic of Kenya to mop up food from counties like Nakuru, like Nyandarua, that have more food, to be taken to our brothers and sisters who have no food, because potatoes are now going at 6 shillings per kilo in Molo, when government of Kenya cannot feed people in other parts of this country. So I just want to say it's saddening that those in authority do not seem to be sensitive enough to the reality, and budget must be budget and must be available, not stories on paper. I submit.
We definitely need intentional support from those holding positions of influence in the agricultural sector. So gentlemen, many thanks for your time. That's all the time we had for this particular conversation, but I'm pretty sure it's an ongoing conversation, and as members of the Fourth Estate, I think we'll definitely look into some of these promises that don't go all the way to being delivered. Nathan Loyd joining us in studio. He's the CEO of Avoveg Limited, equally joined by Okisegere Ojipat, who's the CEO of Fresh Produce Consortium of Kenya and a food security expert as well. Gentlemen, many thanks for your time. We surely hope it shouldn't be all gloom in the export industry. More of government support. I think that's the key message right here. Allow us to take a short break. When we come back, much more from the international front. Stay with us.